Daniel Blake was admitted to St. Augustine's psychiatric hospital after a breakdown at work. He had always been a quiet man, prone to overthinking, but the sudden death of his wife 6 months ago had fractured something deep within him. His colleagues found him pacing the office late one night, mumbling to himself, his fingers bloodied from scratching at his own skin. The doctors said it was exhaustion, stress, a temporary imbalance. St. Augustine's was a peaceful place, they promised. He just needed rest, observation, and therapy. From the moment Daniel arrived, something felt off. The hospital was too quiet, the kind of silence that hummed in your ears and wrapped around your thoughts. The staff were friendly but distant, their smiles too perfect, their eyes too hollow. Daniel was assigned to Ward C, a wing that supposedly housed low-risk patients. His roommate, Mr. Grayson, was a frail old man who sat by the window all day, staring into the foggy courtyard. He never spoke, not even when Daniel introduced himself. "You'll get used to it," the nurse said when Daniel mentioned the silence. "Grayson's been here for years. Doesn't talk to anyone." Daniel's first few nights were restless. The bed was stiff, the blankets smelled of bleach, and he couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. On the third night, he awoke to a faint sound like whispering. He turned toward Grayson, but the old man was still by the window, silhouetted against the pale moonlight. Except, something was wrong. Grayson's head was tilted at an unnatural angle, his eyes wide and unblinking. His lips moved soundlessly, forming words that Daniel couldn't hear. "Grayson," Daniel whispered. The old man didn't respond, but the whispering grew louder. It wasn't coming from Grayson, it was coming from the walls. The next morning, Daniel reported the incident to Dr. Hartley, the psychiatrist overseeing his case. Hartley was a tall, imposing man with sharp features and a voice that dripped with authority. He listened patiently as Daniel described the whispers and Grayson's eerie behavior. "Hallucinations are not uncommon during the early stages of treatment," Hartley said, scribbling notes. "You've been under immense stress. Your mind is processing trauma." "But it felt so real," Daniel insisted. "The whispers, the way Grayson was." "Grayson is harmless," Hartley interrupted, his tone final. "Focus on your recovery, Mr. Blake." That evening, Daniel tried to engage Grayson again. "What's going on here?" he asked, keeping his voice low. "Do you hear them too? The whispers?" Grayson turned to him for the first time, his pale blue eyes filled with a mixture of fear and resignation. His lips trembled as if struggling to form words, but all that came out was a single, hoarse whisper. "Don't trust them." Before Daniel could ask more, a nurse entered with their medication. Grayson immediately returned to his silence, his hands trembling as he took the pills. Over the next few days, Daniel began noticing patterns. Patients in Ward C would disappear without explanation, their rooms cleared out overnight. The staff always had an excuse: transferred to another facility, or discharged early. But Daniel never saw anyone leave. And the whispers, they grew louder. At night, they seemed to seep from the walls, filling his head with fragmented words and phrases he couldn't piece together. He started sleeping less, staying awake to watch Grayson, who continued his silent vigil by the window. One night, Daniel couldn't take it anymore. He confronted the whispers standing in the middle of his room. "What do you want from me?" he shouted. The room fell silent. Then a voice, a clear, deliberate whisper, answered, "You don't belong here." The next morning, Daniel demanded to see Dr. Hartley. "I need to leave," he said firmly. "Something's wrong with this place." Hartley studied him with a calm, clinical gaze. "You're experiencing paranoia, Mr. Blake, a common symptom of acute stress disorder." "It's not paranoia," Daniel snapped. "People are disappearing. The whispers." "You need to trust the process," Hartley interrupted. "We're here to help you." Daniel felt a prick in his arm before he realized what was happening. A nurse had appeared behind him, injecting a sedative into his vein. His vision blurred as Hartley's voice faded into the background. When Daniel woke, he was in a different room. The walls were padded, the door sealed from the outside. He tried to scream, but his throat was raw, as if he'd been shouting for hours. Time lost meaning. Days, maybe weeks, passed in a haze of medication and isolation. The whispers were constant now, no longer confined to the walls. They spoke directly to him, urging him to remember. "Think, Daniel, why are you here?" Fragments of memories began surfacing. His wife's death, the blood, the feeling of her cold, lifeless body in his arms. But there was something else, a figure standing over her, a shadowy presence he couldn't quite place. One night, the whispers revealed the truth. She didn't die naturally, they said. They killed her, and now they want you. Images flooded his mind. Dr. Hartley, the staff, the sterile hospital halls. St. Augustine's wasn't a place for healing. It was a trap, a place where inconvenient truths were buried, along with the people who knew them. The twist came when Daniel finally confronted Grayson again, desperate for answers. "You were right," Daniel whispered. "They're hiding something. But why are you still here? Why didn't they take you?" Grayson turned to him, his lips curling into a small, sinister smile. "Who do you think brought you here, Daniel?" The room suddenly felt colder. The whispers rose, this time echoing Grayson's words. "He belongs here." Daniel stumbled back, his memories crashing down like waves. Grayson wasn't a patient. He had been there when Daniel's wife died. He was the shadowy figure. And as Grayson stood from his chair, his frail form straightening unnaturally, Daniel realized the whispers weren't warnings. They were welcoming him home.